Hi folks, welcome to the latest episode. We're doing this one sober because we were out last night. So it's early morning, and we discovered this week that there was a new beer festival in Edinburgh, the Women in Beer Festival, which is still running. So it's over this whole weekend. So our podcast is going out on Friday, but the events are still running over Saturday and Sunday in Edinburgh.
If you check out, I was at WIB_fest on Twitter. That's where you'll get all the details of all the events that are running. It's pretty cool. There was one.
That's right, yeah.
There was one that we just missed because we were at something else. But I mean, there's stuff running all day. But there was one about how to start up brewing.
Yeah,
How to be a
right.
brewer.
Yeah.
There's one today. We're recording on Friday, so there's tap takeovers in different pubs in Edinburgh, and there's something at Fierce Beer, for example, tonight, and the Neptune Brewery in Edinburgh and stuff. So just check it out. There's loads of stuff going on there.
Yeah, it's been run by the Beers Without Beards. So check out their website, beards.com, and that's a group of women who are pro beer, and yeah, they look as though they're running other events around the country as well. So it's really interesting.
They said they're doing something. They mentioned I spoke to them last night via social media, and they're running something or they're attending something in, I want to say somewhere in Germany and then or Holland, and then they're doing a Christmas thing as well. But yeah, with the aim, I've got it here. With the aim of amplifying the amazing work women in beer are doing to create role models to help redress gender balance, which is it's amazing.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. We tried a couple of beers. So our local beer shop, the Caledonian Craft Beer Merchant in Dunfermline, got some of the beers from the Beers Without Beards branding beers in, and the one we tried was from Cloudwater, Let's Make It Our Time, which was a 4% wheat beer. So it was an interesting beer we had just before we went out last night. So we got a tin from our local beer shop. It was kind of quite a light beer, wasn't it? It's a wheat beer, so
yeah, it was really interesting. It was it was doing lots of things that
it had a odd aroma which we weren't sure about to begin with. Quite spicy, almost curry type of aroma, I thought, initially, and that comes from it having cardamom and star anise and cloves in it. So it's really interesting.
It was really interesting. It was. I found it quite confusing, and that's the word I wanted to use. I enjoyed it, but it was, like I said, it was only 4%, so it wasn't massively alcoholic. And normally, when something's got packing a punch like cardamom and stuff, you would associate being a wee bit stronger. So it was a really strong initial punch that filtered out quite nicely into just quite a calm, chilled out light beer.
I think the aroma was stronger than the actual taste, so you're not going to get these strong flavours quite so much through the taste. But yeah, pleasant enough.
Yeah, totally.
Wee beer. So that was our first beer of the night, and I'll put up a picture of that. And then when we were out in Edinburgh, we were in Edinburgh for something else, but just so happened to hear about the Women in Beer Festival, and headed along to the Salt Horse, I almost got that wrong. The Salt Horse, which is in Blackfriars Street. So that is a little pub, stroke craft beer shop, and they've got a whole bunch of the beers for this festival on tap there.
It was really cool because it reminded me, we were sitting there yesterday, and it's like wall-to-wall fridges of with loads of different kinds of beers.
Just surrounded by tins and bottles of beer.
And then the idea, I think, was that you can just take a can out of the fridge and take it up to the bar and buy it and drink it there, or you can there's two prices. So I had like that, the thing you get in Starbucks where you have like your eat in and your eat out prices, which was really smart. So we had a beer in there.
It was a Hypergalactic IPA from Mothership Brewery. So they're a South London based brewery who are all female. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I think probably more than you did.
Yeah, but I've not been feeling very well this week, so I think I'll come back to my third beer when we move on to what we had in the third beers. But I think by the time of doing this, I did enjoy it as well, but I felt like I wasn't getting as much from it as I should have been, and I think that's been the case with all my food and drinks this week. So
Well, I really liked this. So I can't remember what percentage it is, but 6 or something, 6.5 maybe.
yeah, no, it was up there. I'll double check just now.
Quite a big beer in terms of flavour and mouthfeel, and what a kind of tropical
It had a lovely
fruity
smell.
flavours in
The
there,
smell was
lovely,
great,
and
yeah.
hoppy as well. Kind of nice, pleasant bitterness about it. I really liked it. It's certainly one I would pick up again.
It minded me, I was saying at the time, the smell minded me of a beer that I drank before, where the taste didn't live up to the aroma. And we've had that a few times, but I didn't come away from Hypergalactic thinking the same. I drank a wee bit and I was like, oh, this is really, really good. I would like to come back to it when it's when I feel a wee bit better.
Certainly get it again, and it is available in cans, so we'll probably pick that up sometime soon.
I'm just having as we're talking, I'm just trying to find out what the percentage on Hypergalactic is. It's an IPA, an American IPA. It's very well reviewed and compared to, why does it tell me what it is?
Yeah, anyway, we'll post up pictures and
beer
stuff
as big
later.
as the night sky. I just don't know how much it's got in there.
Good description.
5.8 ABV.
5.8 was it,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
So it was upper. Yeah.
Aye, a pleasant wee beer. So we weren't long in there because we were heading for a bus to get home, but we did manage a quick beer in the Brewdog in the Cowgate. What did you have?
I had I'll check it again and put it up. I had a Pilsner. I wanted something a wee bit lighter. I felt like maybe and anyone that's been to a Brewdog or any pub like that, they've got so much on the wall, and then you've got your cans in the fridge as well, so you could pretty much go and get what you want, whatever kind of beer you want. I thought I would try a Pilsner, just something a wee bit lighter, and I don't know what was going on with the Pilsner. I just didn't enjoy it really. Again, probably gonna have to revisit all these beers and give like an ill and then a non-ill verdict. But you really enjoyed yours.
Well, I went the opposite way and went darker still, and I went for the Zombie Cake Porter from Brewdog, which I wasn't sure if I had it before. I had a memory of a taste that I thought might.
I think we had Zombie Cake when we had the last time we went to Brewdog and
that would be when it was, and it kind of lives up to its name, and it's got a real cakey sort of Black Forest Gateau flavour, for a porter. Quite pleasant, and again, I would pick it up. I see you can buy cans in like Tesco and stuff like that now. I would maybe get a few of them to stick in the fridge for an evening. So that's our beers.
That was our beers. I had a wee look. I can't make it, but I think Colin's going to go to Alloa Beer Festival later on this month.
Oh yeah,
they've just put up their list.
A couple of weeks' time, yeah. So hopefully going to that.
We put our list up for that, and there's some interesting things. Trist Brewing, I've got a couple of really, and I only mentioned Trist, and there's loads of beers, and everyone should, if you're in Central Scotland, you should check out the beer list for Alloa. It's quite interesting because it's there's a Trist are, I think, from I want to say Larbert area of Scotland, sort of central Scotland, like Falkirk way, and they've got a marshmallow and a gingerbread porter. And I'm kind of jealous.
I've seen that advertised, the gingerbread one before, and I've quite fancied that one.
But their double chocolate porter I had earlier in the year, and I gave it a beer of the week.
That's Saturday the 26th of October. I don't know if it's on the Friday, maybe before as well. Anyway, that weekend I'm planning on going along on this Saturday afternoon. Hopefully. Yeah. Okay.
That was beers. Sorry, comics. It's been a weird one. So obviously you saw us at last week. We were at the Glasgow Comic Con, MCM Comic Con in Glasgow, and it was. We never kind of reviewed that, but it was interesting. They'd done it differently this year. Normally, right bang in the centre of the con, they've got quite a narrow lane of independent and various comic producers, and they've done something different where they had what was called Comics Village this year, and it was I enjoyed the layout, but I understand that because of the way MCM is, it wasn't good if you were a seller, if you're a comic creator selling stuff there, and
a couple of people that I spoke to, long-term friends who do lots of comic cons, had said that they weren't doing terribly well at it, and I even spoke to quite a big name I'm not going to mention, but who had said that they hadn't done terribly well at MCM, and had done better at small local cons, and this is somebody who creates comics, on a global scale.
Yeah. We certainly had the same. I spoke to a couple of guys, again, won't mention names, but people that we've met just because we spend a lot of time on social media chatting to different comic creators and stuff like that, and it was nice to see, like, put faces to names and stuff. I found that really good. But a couple of guys I spoke to, where I was like, "Oh, how are you doing? Nice to see you," and they were like, "No, I'm not doing it, man." Yeah. And I was like, "Okay," which I wasn't expecting to hear. But I thought, as a guest, I wanted to check out local comics and independent comics. It was really well laid out. But in hindsight, from what I heard from, like, folk, it was MCM's quite a weird one, because it's like there's a huge. It was almost in my head, the way I've said it was maybe set up to kind of 4 zones. You had, like, the comic village, you had all the sellers in the middle, like all the toy stalls and stuff like that, and then you had a bit at the back where all the the guys that were doing, like, your signatures and your photos were. Yeah. And then
sort of movie and TV personalities.
And there's, like, another hall kind of annexing off of the main hall, which does, like, that's where, like, the talks happen and stuff like that, and the cosplay stuff goes on. So I think you could pretty much walk into them, and if you didn't want to go to the comic zone, you didn't have to. Whereas last year, I kind of recall
you kind of had to walk through it.
You had to weave through everything.
You kind of had to walk through it. Yeah. And it made it feel a little quiet. Yeah. So that's a shame. I've done MCM, selling before, and I didn't find it great as a big event. I find the 2 days kind of very tiring and exhausting. It's not the best event for comics. Selling, anyway. If you want to go and meet people, because a lot of people come from further afield to Glasgow for that event, so you'll see comic creators that you wouldn't normally at a kind of local Scottish con. Anyway, speaking of comics and stuff, this was one of the comics I aimed to pick up at MCM, which is Rock the God. So this is the sequel to the series Rock of the Reds, written by John Wagner and Alan Grant. You'll know them if you're 2000 AD Judge Dredd readers. Alan did a series on Batman as well, and drawn by Dan Cornwell. So those creators got together a few years ago now to create this new sort of sci-fi football crossover.
That's great.
It's got a real nostalgia feel, it kind of harks back to the sort of comics of the 70s maybe. Certainly the comics I was reading.
Soccer and Shoot magazine that had the...
Yeah, and Roy the Rovers. It's got that kind of vibe about it. If you haven't read anything of this story before, it's about an alien who is kind of running away from home, ends up on Earth, and takes over the personality of a famous football player who's got a bit of a bad attitude. But he turns it around. He becomes this character, falls in love with football, and hilarity ensues.
It's awesome.
It's really good.
I read the whole thing on Comic House, and I'm aiming to get I want to get the trade for the whole thing, because it is great. It's one of those things that you read and you're like, I actually could I'd go on to own this.
This is actually on Kickstarter just now, and the Kickstarter is for the whole trade paperback. Right, so this actual issue here, which is like issue 1, is going to be kind of maybe hard to get. So you're going to have to go to a Comic Con and get this from one of the creators. So this is issue 1 of Rock the Gods. The sequel, it's quite interesting, and Rock still wants to be a footballer. He still wants to be involved there, but he has to go back to his home planet because he's told that his mum's dying. But there's a secondary story here, because when he takes over Kyle Dixon's body, that's the footballer, and takes him over, he shrinks the real Kyle down to pocket sized, and puts him in this cabinet in sort of stasis in his spacecraft. And later on in the story, he does the same with a referee who discovers his secret. So anyway, at the start of this story, there's a beautiful sequence, which is in complete darkness, of the referee and Kyle Dixon talking to each other, because they've woken up and they managed to escape. So you have this kind of buddy movie kind of story going alongside
normally
the stuff.
They would hate each other as well.
Yeah, normally they wouldn't get on, but they're put together. They're 6 inches high. They're running through the forest. Trying to avoid animals and stuff. And I can see that developing as a nice little kind of secondary story to the main story about Rock. So really looking forward to that. It's on Kickstarter for the rest of the month, I think. So if that's something you want to do, go and back it on Kickstarter and get the trade paperback. Also, as part of one of the rewards, you can get the original Rock of the Reds as well.
I feel like what's cool with John Wagner's table at MCM is it's the Rock of the Red stuff's growing arms and legs, and you could get like the football strips and that. It's really smart. It's pretty cool. Look, Kickstarters and stuff. I picked up. I reviewed it a couple of podcasts ago, maybe 5 or 6 podcasts ago. James Lawrence's The Legend of La Mariposa. I picked up. I met James at Comic-Con and picked up The Sons of Justice, which is kind of a spin-off in the universe of La Mariposa. It's actually it turns out what we're watching is what we're reading is an outdoor screening of the Sons of Justice movie that La Mariposa is watching.
Oh, I see.
Sons of Justice are a group of I can't really explain the La Mariposa world because it's just kind of odd. I think it's set in Mexico because that's where the whole Lucha Libre wrestling was, and I got the first issue of this from Colin, who knows I like wrestling, so picked it up from a Comic-Con in Glasgow, I think, earlier in the year. But this is it's beautifully drawn. It's just totally it's nonsensical. There's an amazing, probably one of my favourite pages, and all it's a group of wrestlers that have been hired by the mayor to get rid of an evil, spooky spirit that haunts this graveyard, and as hilarity ensues, as you mentioned earlier. There's an amazing bit where one of the wrestlers douses himself in holy water, and then just punches out the spirit, and it's just like the whole page is just him punching,
constant
recalling, thwack, and it's absolutely incredible.
There goes my phone.
But just and then he stops for a cup of tea at one point as well.
Persistent.
Just total nonsense. 10-minute read, absolutely incredible. But as I mentioned, I was speaking to James Lawrence, and they are at the moment. I don't have the exact link. I'll put it on later on. But if you go to the La Mariposa stuff's available online. If you go to longlivemariposa.tumblr.com, or as I'll put the link on, you'll get some of the internet adventures. But also they have there's a Kickstarter for the trade or the PDF of it's like 100 plus pages of the latest issue. Which is gonna be quite incredible actually. And check it out. It's just silliness set in Central America. Lucha Libre, corrupt businessmen, spiritual Central American Aztec nonsense. It's all there. It's all quite incredible actually. And you should
I thought, well, the one I read was quite enjoyable.
If you're looking for just something a bit random to read, it's definitely something worth checking.
Okay, so on to my second book, and this is a wee bit of an older book. This is Superior, written by Mark Millar. Lienil is the artist on this, and I picked this up in Forbidden Planet for $2.99. So this is normal cover price of £20, but they've got a sale on just now, so you might want to check this out. So Superior is one that I've been wanting to read for a while. I kind of read the blurb about it. There's a boy called Simon who's got multiple sclerosis, struggles to get around, and he idolises this superhero Superior, who's in a series of movies, probably comic books as well. And it's a bit of a kind of take on the Superman character, which is often what Mark Millar does in these books, takes a kind of subverts a kind of common trope. So anyway, Simon loves this character Superior, and suddenly, out of the blue, this character who can only be described as a space monkey appears and grants him a wish, and of course his wish is to become superior. And he does, all the wonderful things that Superior does, helping the world out, and righting wrongs, etc. But the monkey tells him that he'll be back in a week's time, to see how he's getting on, right? And it's not much of a spoiler, but it turns out that the monkey is like a demon who is after his soul, and the monkey also, or the demon also, creates like a supervillain out of another person who's like a bully from Simon's school. So they're going to head on a collision course together. I think it's a really good book. Like I say, I've wanted to read it for a long time. It sounded really good when I read the blurb, 2 or 3 years back. And I like quite a lot of Mark Millar stuff as well. So
it's one of the things that's been sold to Netflix. Will this have included in there?
It might be part of the deal. I mean, the only thing I know about is the Jupiter stuff. Jupiter Circle, Jupiter's Legacy, as being stuff that's in production at the moment for Netflix.
But the other one, Afterlife's been forwarded for. I think that's going into some production soon as well.
Okay. Well, quite possibly. The only one I've seen pictures of is I think Jupiter's Circle. Yeah. Okay. So that's a quick one.
And I've got one more. I was going to do 2 more, but I'll do one more and I'll save one for next time. I picked this up from my local comic book shop, the Little Shop of Heroes. I tried to get, in the last couple of months, I've been trying to get some things that I think look quite interesting that I would normally read. So if they blurb them on the Facebook page, I'll grab them. And I picked up Stay by, and I don't know, I read the Chernobyl one a couple of months ago. And it was originally a French comic translated, and this is the same. So this is called Stay, and it was written by Louis Trondheim and illustrated by Hubert Chevillard. Sorry if I've totally butchered the pronunciation of the names there. But something again, I heard a wee bit about this, and from the blurb, it didn't prepare me for what I was going to read, but it was really good. So the blurb is that Fabian and Roland head off for a week at the beach, a chance to spend time together and talk about their future. It's not made 100% clear whether they're married or about to have kids, or they're engaged, about to be married or something, but there's due to be a big discussion in their relationship. Roland, the male, the man in the couple has paid for everything in advance. He's like he comes across a bit like a control freak at the start of the comic, who's he's planned everything and itinerised everything within his notebook. But just as they arrive, I don't want to go too much detail because it's just out and it's and you should totally check out. But there's something happens at the start which leaves Fabienne alone on holiday on her own in this situation where she probably should go home to deal with what's going on in the world around her, but instead she just takes a notebook and decides to continue the holiday and live and continue through the itinerary as planned, despite being on her own. That's really that's pretty much it. It's beautifully drawn. There's a lot of like long panels where there's very little dialogue because it's all the communication is done through the artwork, which is stunning. It's just really well written, and I could create some. There's another kind of 12 panels with no dialogue. Just interested in how raised discussions. I had a very brief discussion even with my wife about what do folk do and when they find themselves in unexpected situations. How do we deal with certain emotions, and what would you do? Would you do that? Could you see her perspective? Could you see and it's just really interesting. There's other characters that have to deal with what's going on who deal with it completely differently. It's just interesting that's her perspective.
Yeah, what makes the story is that she deals with it, probably the situation, in a way that most of us wouldn't.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it interesting.
It's cool. It reminded me of if I was to do you ever see that film Shirley Valentine?
Yeah.
It reminded me of that, but if you turned the emotion up to 11 and took the comedy out, it was it was really, really good. I'm glad I read it, and my local comic shop has been pushing these sort of stuff recently, like the springtime in Chernobyl last month. Stay came up, and it's just nice that comics can go these ways as well.
Well, there's kind of been a recent report just this past week about how comic readers are moving away from superheroes, and embracing kind of this larger realm of comics. So that's quite a recent thing, and it's quite noticeable. If you go to your local comic shop, it's not just your Marvel, DC superhero stuff that's available now.
You should I think if you're not I mean, don't get me wrong. I read Marvel and I read DC, and I've got pull lists for both. But it's nice to come away from that, because ultimately it reminds me of, like, for want of a better example in my head at the moment, the Marvel and the DC stuff read very much like soap operas. You're never going to get everything. Nothing's going to be totally tied up, and nothing's going to be totally self-contained, because even if you get like a mini series, it's still going to end up with the ability, with the need to move on to the next series, or for there's a string to be pulled, so that they can follow up with something else. And you're never going to get and it was one of the reasons why I mentioned a couple of months ago that I gave up reading a branch of DC. I was reading the Justice League series, having read a big event beforehand, and it was just continuous, and you were tying up one issue and then bringing in a new one. And like soap operas do that all the time. And it just gets a bit grating after a while, whereas if you kind of come off that, sometimes you do end up like reading stuff, you're like, oh, I want more of this. But even like the self-contained stuff's really good. Like, I don't know about Superior, but Stay is perfect, and it's done, it's finished.
It doesn't feel as though there should be any follow-ups or anything to it.
And sometimes that's quite nice, knowing that you've got everything
you've read the whole lot, and you don't feel tied into it. So anyway, that's really it for this week. Sometime later in the month we'll have a Halloween themed chat, so we'll be doing some kind of horror supernatural comics and some beers that sound a bit spooky. I've
also got I should thank Goshrow Comics. So we saw last week that we did like a beer trade off, and that's what we're hoping to do in the future. But I think maybe next week or the week after we might just we got some really nice beers off Dave from Reenactment Scotland as well, so we might just have a look at like stuff that we've been given. It's quite interesting stuff, and you know, any comics that kind of come our way. I read Deadbeat by Jed McPherson and Chris Sheehan. I'll review that at a later date, because it was really good, and I think it should be dedicated some time in a different podcast. So there's loads of stuff to talk about. If there's anything that you guys think we should be
get in touch, let us know if there's a beer, if there's a comic that you think we should read.
Let us know. Cool.
So that'll be us signing off for this week.
Cool.
Bye for now.
Bye bye.